The election is now over. A hard and at times bitter campaign has come to an end. On the results, the People's National Congress, in the interests of peace and stability in Guyana, has agreed with the support of the United Force to form the government. One of the more serious tasks facing us at this moment is the attainment of independence at the earliest point of time. One of the disturbing features of the election, which we have noted, is the apparent cleavage existing in our society, brought about by colonialism and 7 years of mismanagement and misrule. It has come to our knowledge that despite the years of disaster suffered by the people of this country, a large section of the electorate was persuaded against its best interests to vote for the party formerly in power as a result of the dishonest and opportunist propaganda that, unless that party was returned to power, those people would suffer. The new government, headed by me, intends to show by its actions in the immediate future, and indeed throughout its term of office, that this is not true. The problem of racial cleavage, racial antagonism, and distrust, which the last government allowed to develop during its term of office, is still with us. But our government recognizes this as a challenge which it intends to accept and which it is determined to overcome. My government considers that it is a matter of the greatest importance and the utmost urgency that an atmosphere of relaxation be established immediately. The reduction of tension, which is already apparent and which will become more pronounced with every passing day, when it is realized that not only are we intent on being fair and just, but also that we have at our disposal the means to carry out our intention, is merely the first fruits of our attainment of office. Enemies of this country would like to see racial division and antagonism continue. They will not have that satisfaction. The government recognizes that its duty is to rule in the interests of all the people of this country. It will dispel the fears of the apprehensive and confound the hopes of those who seek the destruction of this country. To be specific, this government holds that all the people of this country are equally important, whether they belong to a large group or to a small group. To us, the Amerindians are important. To us, the Chinese are important. To us, the Portuguese are important. To us, the Europeans are important. To us, the mixed races are important. To us, the Africans are important. To us, the Indians are important. In short, all Guyanese are important and valued members of our community, and we cherish them and consider that as a government, it is our duty and privilege to guard, protect, and further the real interests of all. It would appear that the would-be destroyers...
You did hear it, right? All right. Tomorrow would be the 37th death anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the first executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I mean, look, you heard the guy, you heard him. No dodo head, went to a good university that we can identify, London School of Economics. We know that for sure. That's where he attended. He didn't attend any university in any back dam or a university that's still to be found. We don't know where certain people have attended their universities, but yet they are parading around, masquerading themselves as holders of PhD. Well, we know one of them just got, an honorary doctorate, and then these are things that people petition and pay for. So it's nothing achieved through hard work and dedication. Forbes Burnham, 37 death anniversary. But when you compare, look, I just want you guys to listen for another 30 seconds before I do the comparison. 30 seconds. Here we go. 30 seconds.
Indians are important. In short, all Guyanese are important and valued members of our community, and we cherish them and consider that as a government, it is our duty and privilege to guard, protect, and further the real interests of all.
Did you hear that? To protect and further the real interest of all. Every single Guyanese, all. Now, that's Forbes Burnham. Some of them have their issues with Forbes Burnham, but most of them can't do as he did. Eloquent indeed, brilliant mind, no longer here. 37th death anniversary. The PNC and the nation are celebrating tomorrow, remembering the death or the life, of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. But should I really do a comparison this evening as we await our guest, Dr. David Hinds, a man who got his PhD from a recognizable university? But before we get to Dr. Hinds, you heard Forbes Burnham just now. I want you guys to compare what we have now. We have really, really gone to the bottom of the heap.
Well, we touched on that already. The access to studio, we can either decide, I don't know, what is the cost for an average recording? 8,000?
I don't know. What we have now? Let's go again.
Entire international community spoke about the attempts to rig an election, spoke about the attempt democracy from the people of this country. Let's fix that first. Let us fix that.
Horrible, horrible. Let's compare again. Forbes Burnham, a real president, a real leader of a country.
It would appear that the would-be destroyers of this country have sought to convince our Indian citizens that they have cause to fear because of the removal of the former government. We can assure our Indian citizens here and now that rather than cause for fear, they have much to hope for from the new government. This government is not bent on the confiscation of property. This government will not pursue policies likely to bring the races into collision.
Unlike what is happening now. We see it every single day. Unlike what is happening now. But look, let's do another quick comparison while we prepare to have Dr. David Hinds. You know, all the years I've known Dr. Hinds, I never asked his middle name. Tonight is the night we will get to know Dr. David Hinds' middle name. But let's get to the comparison. Here's another, we heard the Honorable Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, a real leader. We heard a ting by the name of Irfan trying a ting. And now here is another ting. Just a comparison, mind you, for now.
Right across Ghana, when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here after the 21st of March, you say to them, walk behind them, chase them out, they're going to be illegal. Say to them, you're illegal. Free up the country, you're undemocratic. They're going to face a different situation right across the country.
When they come to the communities.
Honestly, Guyana has gone to the dogs with those type of leaders, so-called leaders. They're not leaders, they're hustlers, flat-foot hustlers. Let's prepare to usher in our guest this evening, the man of the moment, David Hinds. Dr. David Hinds, who went to several recognizable universities. I believe one of them happens to be Howard University out in Washington. But before we get to Dr. David Hinds, let's remind the nation of the oppression and the oppressors we have within our midst. We'll be right back.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Start watching tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
But since Mike wasn't there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come to the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, that we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice and my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all get visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deal with, you know.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right, welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benchop. It's the 5th day of August, 2022. We just gave you a brief, introduction there during our introduction. Speech by Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, the late president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the first executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Tomorrow marks 37 years since he has passed away. 37 years. But for some folks, they still remember him, for God in heaven knows. We're talking about some of those folks who oftentimes talk about Burnham Ban flour, and people line up in line for flour, and people line up in line for all manner of things. That's what they were saying. That's what they're saying. 37 years after this man died. But look what happens now. Under the PPP regime, people are lining up for oil. People are lining up for sugar. People are lining up at the cathedral. People are lining up for all sorts of things right now under the PPP regime. That's a fact, and that's reality. Let us bring my guest this evening, no stranger to you guys, Dr. David Hinds, an honorable man, despite the fact some of the kunumunus within the PPP want to describe him as a man who is not honorable, a joker, and all these manner of things. We don't accept that. And we are not going to accept people like a kunumunu, Irfan Ali, who still cannot account for his university degrees, to call our leaders jokers or disrespect our leaders. Any one of them. It has got to stop. And I mention it again because Irfan Ali is disrespectful. And this is the kind of guy who wants to shake other people's hands as though he's democratic, as though he means well. He's a disrespectful little boy. Dr. David Hinds, welcome to Straight Up once again. Good night, sir.
Good night, Mark, and thank you for having me again.
Thank you for always accepting my invitation 99.9% of the time. I'll let our listeners know I asked Dr. David Hinds to be on the show. He's always willing and ready. No excuses. And this is the sort of leader, this is the sort of politicians that we need in Guyana. We don't need politicians who are supposed to be fighting the oppressors, supposed to be fighting these hooligans who are in office right now, albeit under questionable circumstances, to be making excuses. We can't make it. Oh, I'm busy. Oh man, a little sick tonight. A little. Dr. Hinds can be coughing or got the flu or whatever it is. He is always willing and ready because Dr. David Hinds understands the struggle. He knows what it is to stand up and fight against these oppressors. And for that, I say, thank you so much, Dr. David Hinds. Having said that, how did you spend the emancipation, sir?
Well, I'm one of the leading members of the 1st of August movement of Buxton, an organization that I joined when I was 13 or 14 years old. And I am still a leading member of that organization. And we usually have a big to-do in Buxton. Since 1969, with the birth of the 1st of August movement, we have organized and celebrated and observed the event even when it was not a holiday, a national holiday. Buxtonians would normally stay home on that day. And so I spent the day in Buxton as part of the organization. We had a church service in the morning, so I went to church in the morning and I spoke at church, and then ran from the church to Tipperary Hall, where we were hosting the kings and queens of Africa. We had a reception for them, and I had to pivot and then speak there. And it was a very good event. They got a sense of the Africanness of Guyana. They went to a real village, and we were able to demonstrate to them that Africa never left us and we never left Africa. By their own testimony, I suppose they said the ancestors spoke to them, and along with teacher Yvette Herod, we were inducted or installed, or whatever name is given to it. Sister Yvette was inducted or consecrated as Queen Mother, and I was named as an African Chief of Guyana. And then we ran from there to the Buxton Market Square, where we had a libation ceremony. And then I gave what we call in Buxton the New Year's address, which I think is circulating on Facebook. And once we were finished with that, we moved to the line top for the festivities. We had Yoruba singers. We had cultural activities from artists in the village. And our two main speakers were Simona Brooms and Nigel Hughes. So that was my Emancipation Eve. And the next day I went to Belladrum. I had several, usually around this time, I had several invitations to speak. I don't leave Buxton on Emancipation Eve. And on Emancipation Day, I usually stay in Buxton too and visit the national park. But this year, I decided to accept one of the invitations, and I chose Belladrum in recognition of the role played by that village in the demonstrations when the two Henry boys were killed. And because of that, out of the 12 or 13 invitations I got, I chose to go to Belladrum on that day. And of course, everybody knows the next day was the rally at the parade ground or Independence Square or Burnham Court, whichever name you choose to call it. And I spoke there, and I think that speech is circulated enough. So for me, it was an emancipation to share some thoughts and share some ideas. And my message for the entire Emancipation weekend was a message of dignity, a message of bravery, a message of resistance, and a message of overcoming. So for me, it was what the ancestors moved me to do. I am not the kind of speaker who prepares a speech before I see the audience. I see the audience, I get the vibe, and then I allow the ancestors to move me in that direction. That is why people don't normally see me with a script when I'm speaking. I write the script for what I speak in my head, and I'm constantly fighting. Sometimes 2 or 3 ancestors are speaking to me at the same time, and then at the end of it all, the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart my heart is really a reflection of where they take me.
All right, Dr. David Hinds, welcome to the show again. You're now actually a chief.
Yes.
Some of the oppressors watching and the detractors, they're going to say, they're going to write all sorts of things, and we know who the chief one is. That's a fake chief, but you are a real chief, man. And you said Sister Yvette out there in Buxton?
Yes.
My friend Yvette, how is she doing?
She's doing wonderfully well. She's a leading light in our village. Sister Yvette has been doing what she's been doing since 50, 60 years ago. And often the community sometimes forget to say thanks. The community sometimes forget to say, I love you for what you're doing. And it's one of the things that I have embarked upon. I never finish a program that I do. I never finish a speech that I give without telling our people, I love them, we love them, and assume that the love flows back to us. And, I want to say on this program, I love Teacher Yvette. I love her because all of us contribute. All of us make our contribution. But some people go beyond the call of duty, and we have to call them out. And she was fittingly accorded the title of Queen Mother.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Sister Yvette, Queen Mother, deserving title for a champion, a fighter, and we salute her this evening. Dr. David Hinds, I know we can go on and talk for hours, but a lot of people can't talk for hours because, unfortunately, the cost of living is high. Lots of things have gone down in the country in terms of a digression. We have seen that the installed regime, these so-called leaders can't govern. They're dividing the country. Every single day, we're seeing some bad policies by these individuals who are in office. But the cost of living, every Guyanese is affected. You are there currently. Can you describe it for us? We know sugar price gone up. Every single thing gone up. Describe it for us, please, sir.
Well, if I were to give you the kind of description, I'll have to do so from the standpoint of the wife, the mother. They're the ones who I think have to face the onslaught, the economic violence of the marketplace. And the market, as we know, is not determined by God. The market is determined by those who have money and those who have wealth and those who are able to influence the motions of prices and so forth. Our government is there to intervene when the market gets out of whack, because the market is a selfish place, because those who sell are interested in profits. They're not interested in the welfare of the citizens. They're not interested in wages. They're interested in profit. They're driven by profit. And so therefore it is the role of government to mediate between the market and the people. And in the case of Guyana, our government is in cahoots with the market. It is the market is dominated by people who have contributed to them coming to office. And so therefore they are beholden to those who control the marketplace. And so instead of playing the role of mediator between the consumers, the citizens, and the market, they are in cahoots with the market against it. And so that is what accounts for the high prices, right? The market is always behaving like that, but it's the government that has to mediate. And how does the government mediate? What it does is that it takes government from the institution and takes it to a street corner. So what we have is a street corner economic approach to development. So here is how we're going to develop. We're going to walk around the place with a bag of money, and we go to a community and we say, here is some. We go to another community and we say, here is some more. And we go to another community and say, here is some, and so on and so forth. And we create fights. And then we go in and say, we are going to end the fight. Here is some money. That, the Americans disrespectfully call it voodoo economics. Here in Guyana, we call it street corner economics, Bajan economics, dunce economics. You don't run an economy. You don't run one of the fastest growing economy in the world in that kind of way. There are institutions of government. There are due process, how you spend money. They are councils that you have to go through. And above that all, you have to have a vision. What is it you're trying to use this money to do? If you say, as we do, that poverty is at the base of underdevelopment in our society, that if we solve poverty, we are going to solve low school attendance. We're going to solve healthcare. We are going to solve the problem of skills. If you say that, then you are going to implement policies to ensure that that happens. What that means is that you have to shield the impoverished from the assault of the marketplace. So when we see all those high prices, it is an absence of economic vision. It is a coddling of the market and the marketeers, and it's an abandonment of the primary role of government, which is to look after the welfare of the citizens. Even when you go back to colonial times, you would hear about poor assistance. Even the colonial government felt there was need to ensure that the poor people, the sufferers, the working people are pushed against the assault of the market. Even the colonial governments do that. That's why we talk about welfare economics. We talk about the welfare society. What welfare means is the welfare of the people. Welfare, of course, has got a bad name in the United States, but in Europe and in places like the Caribbean, Guyana, and the welfare of the people is the primary function of government. So when people talk about the welfare state, they're talking about a state whose primary responsibility is to protect and defend its people against economic, political, social, and cultural assault. So we come back to the high prices. The high prices are as a result of bad economic policy, bad lack of economic vision, an abandonment of the protection of the citizens, and an embrace of a total market. And the thing about the market is that the market is not your normal classical capitalist marketplace. Your market is a market that is grounded in spite, S-P-I-T-E. It is grounded in political gangsterism. It is grounded in ethnocracy, meaning it's grounded in ethnic discrimination. And so it's not your normal capitalist market. It's a capitalist market that is grounded in crazy politics and the politics of spite and discrimination, which makes it worse.
Thank you so much, Dr. David Hinds, describing the situation, the economy there in Guyana. And Dr. David Hinds did say in spite of the market. And that's their policy. Their policy is riddled with spite towards
Right.
mainly persons of African descent. Dr. Hinds, you mentioned earlier, and I quote you, you said our government. And with all due respect, I'd like to remove myself out of that our, because at this hour, I still do not recognize the regime of Guyana because of the way they were installed. And it doesn't it it doesn't do me well to sit here and recognize any regime that is in office under questionable circumstances. So, again, with all due respect, I wish to remove myself in describing these people as our government. They're not
Well,
my
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and when I say our government, I don't mean ownership of the government. I was speaking in formal terms, right?
they're
At the
not.
end of the day, right?
And
I wasn't speaking. I wasn't
and I
speaking
say
at
this,
all in
Dr.
terms of
Hines,
ownership. Yeah,
if they were in office through democratic means, then it would be acceptable.
No, I take your point.
Our government and address them accordingly. But
Right.
as of now, with the elections being questionable and all those petitions in the court and the PPP, they're the ones who are fighting against the petitions not being heard. And I feel really, really, really bad or uncomfortable addressing these people as a government. They have been installed, they're gangsters, they're not governing for all of the people. They're not even governing for their people. They're just governing for themselves, a few friends, and cronies. Having said that, what is your take on the elections petition and the fact that it's being stalled as a result of the PPPC?
Well, look, Mark wants us to look at what's happening there with that issue that you've raised in its larger perspective. And the question here is the PPP said that there was an attempt to rig the election, and they've charged the people with attempting to rig an election. They're not saying the elections were rigged. They're saying there was an attempt to rig the election. But in pursuit of the charge of attempting to rig the election, we had a chance to do something that doesn't normally happen at the election. We had a chance to open the boxes before the declaration of the results. And in the process of opening the boxes, we had the opportunity to find out how did the votes get into the box. So our election came down not just to the counting of the votes in the box, but how the votes got into the box. And you've put some statistics there on the board. So the determination of this election is not based on a count of the votes in the box, but how the votes got into the box. How the votes got into the box. Were they valid votes or invalid votes? And so therefore what you had was an elections petition before an elections petition. The evidence, what you have on the board there is evidence for an elections petition. And so the PPP, having created its own narrative, now walks into a trap that it didn't expect. And so it doesn't want the petitions to be heard, because if the petitions are heard, this evidence is going to be put before the court. And it is the first time that a national election, the court would have this kind of evidence to grapple with. The first time in our elections petitions since we became a self-government. Secondly, if the people they charge, Lowenfield and others, and said these people were attempting to rig the election, then that evidence that you put there, those people are going to present that to the court as their evidence. So what we have in effect is a disputed election where one side claims attempt to rig, the other side has put forward tangible, supported by GCOM, because GCOM accepted these numbers, supported by the police, because the police contributed to this compilation. So therefore, one side is saying, we saw an attempt to rig an election. The other side is saying, here is the evidence. We just didn't see anything. We saw the actual evidence of an election being rigged. And we have not even thrown in here the voters list, which was prematurely, in attempting to clean the voters list, it was prematurely stopped by the chairman of GCOM. So what we have here is a classic case. It's a classic case where an election was rigged by one side, and that side claims that there was an attempt to rig, and the courts now are placed there to determine the outcome. But as I said, for the first time in our history, the court doesn't have to look far in order to find evidence. The evidence is there. It came as a result of an order, Order 60, and Order 60, and the effect of law. So the outcome of Order 60 is very lawful. And so the court has to grapple with that lawful evidence that is before it. The PPP doesn't want that to see the light of day. And as Alexander said, we have moved past statements of poll because the elections were not determined by the declaration of the 10 regions. If the elections were guided by the declaration from the 10 regions, the coalition would be in power today. The elections were determined by the declarations of the votes in the box. And so therefore, it's no longer about statements of poll, it's about the statements of the recount. The statements of recount are inconsistent with what was counted in the boxes.
Well, that is my reason, and I support thousands of other Guyanese who refuse to recognize these individuals who are parading themselves in office because they are in office under questionable circumstances. So I personally do not recognize them as a legitimate government until the court rectifies what the situation really is. But the petitions, as you have said, and we all know, the PPP is afraid of the elections petitions. Yet they have some of their folks yelling on a mountaintop or in a trench corner or somewhere, wherever they are, saying, show your SOPs, show your SOPs. We have long gone past that stage. And if the PPP was interested in showing SOPs, they would have revealed the SOPs of the coalition over 2 years ago. The fact that the PPP cannot do that, their own supporters should understand that the PPP themselves have something to hide, which is far more than what the coalition, they have claimed that the coalition did. You're right. The evidence is there to support, to substantiate that the PPP, they're the ones who did all of the riggings. We see it. The evidence is quite clear. Dr. Hinds, they don't want the petitions to be heard. They're blocking it. Every time there is a court hearing, they jump to appeal. There is a court hearing right now in the CCJ. The CCJ should be handing down its decision probably in this next coming week. Probably, who knows? But look what Irfan Ali says, the PPP. Retired TNT judge to head elections probe. In other words, Irfan Ali and the PPP are saying, to hell with the elections petitions. They want an elections, a commission of inquiry into the 2020 elections outside of the court setup, outside of the petitions. Your take, sir.
Yes, this is consistent with the PPP's approach to governance. They set up what is called parallel governments. We see it with the police force. So they have these squads in the police force that are carrying out acts in the name of the police force, but really it's not policing. So there's this parallel group within the police force. We see it with the economy, as I tried to explain earlier. You have parallel economic structures. The president goes around and he shares money. We saw the Sugate really bringing out a parallel arrangement by the president. And we can go on and on and on. And so here is this government, which has said, look, the court said we won. And so we are in government legitimately. Now, when the legitimacy is questioned and challenged, they now are saying we don't have confidence in the court anymore. We are now going to create this commission of inquiry. And we are going to direct this commission of inquiry what to find. We heard, I think it was the vice president who already told us what the commission of inquiry would find. They already know what would be the finding of the commission. So therefore, the commission of inquiry is seen as a parallel institution to the courts of Guyana. Now, unfortunate for them, commission of inquiry is just that. What the commission of inquiry finds is not going to be binding, legally binding on anyone. And so therefore, they want to use it for propaganda purposes. That is the whole intention of the commission of inquiry, for propaganda purposes, aimed at their supporters to convince them, look, we won the election because this commission of inquiry said that the other side rigged. As I said, they already know what the commission of inquiry would say. So obviously, it is really a facade that they are creating to hide their sins.
That's exactly what is being done. Even their own supporters, if their supporters are that blind not to be able to see exactly what is being done, that it is the PPP that is actually afraid to have the elections petitions to be heard, because they know that the entire nation knows, most of the people know, that they have been installed under questionable circumstances. So they are running away from the elections petitions. Again, I say they are running away from the elections petitions. Dr. David Hinds is with us this evening. Good evening to all of you. As you see here, 4,864 absent voters, 150 stop ballot boxes, 47 ballot boxes without documents, 1,278 missing oaths of identity. I tell you guys what, that is why the PPPC is afraid of the elections petitions, because they will be exposed. Dr. David Hinds, let's move on to some other stuff. Sugar. Sugar was once sweet in the country. Now sugar is bitter. Compliments of the PPP regime, compliments of the installed PPP regime, the incompetence of the board of Gaisuco, and the incompetence at the leadership level of the PPPC. Your take about Guyana being a sugar producing country, but yet sugar is so high. Sugar price is so high. And yet, outside of being high, people have to line up for sugar. Your take, sir.
My brother, look, if you're producing sugar at 40 cents per pound and you're selling it for 14 cents per pound, then what you're doing is you are subsidizing those who you are exporting your sugar to. You're subsidizing them. You are producing it at 40 cents and you're selling them for 14 cents, which means that you're subsidizing them with 26 cents for every pound of sugar that you're selling to Europe and wherever you sell it. So that's the first bad economics. The second bad thing about sugar is that you are not interested in making sugar a business. You want to keep sugar as a political tool. The coalition attempted to streamline the sugar industry to make it profitable. What that means, any business person will say that, in order to make something profitable or at least break even, you can't control the price of sugar, which means you have to find other ways and means of ensuring it becomes profitable. The coalition attempted to do that. The PPP criminalized it by saying the coalition was targeting East Indians and oppressing them and so forth. And so they have come in to power, promising that they will turn back the economics, the sugar economics, started by the coalition. They have gone back to sugar politics. And so the fact that we have high prices of sugar or no sugar in the market is as a result of the politicization of Gaisuko, whereas the coalition was depoliticizing Gaisuko and turning it into an economic venture. The PPP as the economic side, I'm trying to get the word right, but they have politicize the sugar industry, de-emphasize economics, and emphasize politics. And so what we are seeing is a combination of bad economics and the politicization of the industry. You only have to listen to the exchanges that have come into the public domain of that meeting there between the board, Gaisuko board, and the person who is the CEO. The CEO was a political appointment. A political appointment. This is not someone who has had any history of studying the sugar industry, working in the sugar industry. This was a political appointment. And it didn't take them 2 years to realize the mistake that they've made. The PPP has politicized the institutions of state, the political institutions, the economic institutions, the cultural institutions. And what we see is a breakdown of governance, governance of Gaisuko, governance of the police, governance of the bureaucracy, meaning the civil service, governance of every facet, governance of investment, of every facet of the society. We have had a breakdown in governance. And when you have a breakdown in governance, it means that the system, because our political system assumes government restraint, opposition participation in decision making, and a depoliticization of the state bureaucracy. And when you have a politicization of state bureaucracy, a delinking of the opposition from any decision making, and an absolute monopoly of the government on every facet of governance, the system has broken down. The political and economic and legal system in Guyana have broken down. They've broken down. And so you have high prices in the market, sugar being short, police shooting up, doing what they want, shooting people, children. As soon as African Guyanese make a cry, they try to push them back through the plantation gate. And let me explain what I mean by putting them through the plantation gate. These hampers and outreaches are not driven by the need for development. They're not driven by need for development. They're not concerned about developing the underdeveloped aspects of our society. They're not coming up, even at a minimum, with a developmental strategy for African Guyanese. They're going to Buxton, they're going to Melanie. I just came from Melanie. They're going there this weekend. I just attended a meeting of residents who are concerned about what's going to happen.
Where is the meeting at Bond's place?
I didn't find out where the meeting.
Sorry about that. I just thought
it's going to be held.
But yeah,
you're going to Melanie, and then you're going to Buxton, and then you're going to go to another village. That's not how you develop a community. If you accept that Guyana is ethnically divided, and you want to come up with a developmental thrust for each ethnic group. Yes, then you don't have to go to selected villages. You're going to Melon because you want to embarrass the PNC. You're going to Boxer because you want to embarrass Kidaki Amsterdam and David Hinds. And wherever you go is because, not because you're interested in development, in that you're interested in playing politics with people. And you're saying, when we go there and we give them some little road, we give them some things, we are not carrying out the welfare function of government. What we are doing is trying to buy their silence. And when you want to buy people's silence, you're pushing them back in the plantation. Because that's what the slavery was about. It was about enslaving people and trying to make them feel that enslavement was good for them. The academics who have said that enslavement has saved Black people, saved African people from the dark ages of Africa. And so that is what these people are subliminally trying to do. They're trying to say, first of all, you are not worth policy. You are not worth vision. You cannot function in a state of freedom. So you are worth handouts. That's the first thing. And secondly, we're not only going to give you this handout, we're going to give you this handout in exchange for your collusion and your silence. That is the definition of slavery. That's what they're doing. And we have to sound the bell for our people who, understandably, when you're in poverty, you clutch for every little help. But we have to let our people understand that it's not what they give to you, it's the objective behind it. They're going to Melanie on Sunday to get the Melanie people to render the co-op at Melanie defunct, to say the co-op is not serving their interests. And the minister who's going to be there has the power to declare the co-op defunct. Put another entity in charge. That's what they're going to Melanie to do on Sunday. And some of the people invited a few of us there tonight to chat with us and so on. But that's their plan for Melanie. Paul,
and you did say you don't know the location, whether it's Bond's place or not. You're not sure.
Well, I don't want to get into that, Mark.
No. I'm not saying that you're getting into it, because I'd like to know where the location is, where they're really speaking, where the Bond is giving them his platform. I mean, his business place to speak. I don't know. I'm just asking, sir.
I don't know either. I don't know. What I'm trying to explain is what they're going for and what the citizens some of the citizens are disappointed at the leadership of the co-op. Some of them are angry at the leadership of the co-op. And the government has seen that. And what they're trying to do is to use the people's anger in order to render the co-op defunct and to replace the co-op with government-appointed institution, an interim manager. They're trying to set up a CDC, this community development committee that was set up by Philomena Sohoy and that operates out of Freedom House. So they're trying to replace the co-op with a CDC. And they're using the disappointment and anger of the people of Melanie at the leadership of the co-op in order to do that.
Watch out for who they're going to attempt to install on these things. That's all I'm saying, Dr. Hinds. Watch out. Watch out. Now, here is a quick example for something. This guy here, Ishwar Ramdani, just to give you the mindset. PNC closed down sugar and rice industry. When? What year? That's the question. You see what goes through these people's minds, right? PNC closed down the sugar and rice industry. What year and when? The rice industry flourished under the PNC. Do you remember Guyana Rice Board, GRB? Do you remember Blackbush Polder and all the rice, tons and tons of rice that were exported out of the country, and sugar was flourishing under the PNC? Do you remember who were the ones burning the sugar canes and so forth, the sugar field? Ishwar. Something must be itching you. You don't even know what you're saying. You don't even understand your history. You said earlier that the PNC banned rice and flour and people had to line up in line. I'm talking about now. Obviously, you're not in Guyana. Obviously, you're detached from what is happening, the reality on the ground in Guyana. But you just want to pompozet yourself. Come on here to make yourself look like a real Katahar and a real Korhi to say that you're trying to sound nice. But you're not sounding nice because you know what? Look at what's happening under the PPP right now. Sugar estates, and not even right now. They started way back in 2013, 2012, 2011, 2010. Sugar industry was under attack. Sugar estates were being closed down. Sugar workers were striking, not under the PNC, under the PPP, under Jagdeo, under Ramotar. And even during those times, 2015, 2011, 2006, and so forth, Donald Ramotar was one of the directors at the Gaisuko. Jagdev friend from Unity Village, Dr. Raj Singh, was the chairman or the CEO of Gaisuko. All these things, but yet sugar started to become bitter under the PPP, not under the PNC. Sugar estates were shut down. Sugar workers were beaten. They were locked up and they were tear gassed under the PPP regime, not PNC. Dr. David Hinds, do you remember Whale Estate when we were there to talk to sugar workers and listen to their cries and their concerns, sir?
Yes, I remember that very well. I remember that very well, Mark. I remember that very well. And, you know, today you and I chatted for a bit, and you remember me telling you how pained I am at what the PPP is socializing our Indian brothers and sisters.
Stick a pin, Dr. Hinds. Stick a pin. No disrespect to you, Honorable Chief. Ishwar got to get, he has to get, and people are calling for him to get the national award for the night on Straight Up. We've got to give him the national award. Stick a pin. He deserves it. Where's the national award, guys? Come on, let's go. This is for Ishwar. That's for our friend Ishwar. Continue, Dr. David Hinds, please.
Yeah, you know, I'm very pained at what the PPP is encouraging among the Indian Guyanese community. The kind of thing that Sister Amanza spoke about. I mean, you can't do that to your own people, but that is what they've chosen to do, to really make people say things, express narratives that those people know are not true. You know, it really is a disrespect for the human psyche, for people's humanity. And that is why, you know, I know you and others do it. You know, you come on here, yes, there is a time for politicking, but I come on here and I try to educate people and explain things to people. You may not agree with my explanation, you may not agree with my interpretation, but I attempt to lift our people to the point where you stop, you think, and you reason. My auntie who made the sacrifice for me to go to school and get an education, she was clear that she wanted me to move beyond learning how to read and write. She knew how to read and write, but she knew that there was something else that was part of education. And you know, that's what I want to encourage in our supporters, in African Guyanese. To lift yourself and don't go down. Let no politician make you so daft, so dumb that you repeat nonsense. You know, the PPP really disrespects its own supporters by allowing them to come on these programs and to say these nonsense. God help them. I hope they catch themselves sooner than later. And You can continue to vote for your party. You can continue supporting your party, but don't let your party make you descend to these depths that can only reflect the darker side of our thought process.
Dr. Hinds, I'm looking at the time. I know it's Friday. You've had a busy day. I know how busy you usually are because you are obsessed. You're obsessed in the struggle for a better Guyana. I've been there on the ground. I know your energy, and your energy, I can say, has gotten 10 times better. I don't know where you get the energy from, but I take my hats off to you, my brother. You not only talk the talk, you walk the walk. You are
Mark,
on the ground.
As you know, we have long decided. Look, I am not going to get work in a place like Guyana. I'm not going to get work. I have to work elsewhere.
A lot of us wouldn't get work under that installation.
That's the point. People normally say, "Oh, Mark Bishop live overseas, David Hines live overseas." Mark Bishop and David Hines not going to get work in Guyana. We have to work other places. But as soon as we get a break from work, we are in Guyana on the ground. And when I come to Guyana for 3 or 4 months, as I've been, not 2 weeks and 1 week, I'm not on vacation. When I come here for 3 months and 4 months, as I do, whenever my job allows me some break, I feel that those who were there for the last 4 months or 5 months, I've got to catch up, and so I've got to work doubly hard, because I have to put in my fair share. So hence the reason that you say that we work overtime. We work overtime because there are people who are here all the time, and they're holding the fort. And when we come after being away for 2 or 3 months, we come back. We have to catch up. You know, the old men, the old guys, when they went into the rum shop, they look at the bottle and they look at the company, and the average, boy, they probably take 2 or 3 shots each. And so they, because they got to catch up. And it's the principle of playing your role and doing your fair share of the work. And for me, this is work. It's the work of the ancestors. The Christians will say it's God's work, and it's the people's work. That is why they have allowed us the opportunity to read some books, to travel the world, to study what happens in other parts of the world, and then bring it to bear on our society as nourishment, so our people can move from one stage of the march to freedom to another stage.
Well said, Dr. David. Chief Dr. David Hinds. Chief Dr. David Hinds. And you said that when you're not there and so forth, folks have to hold the fort down. I give it to those individuals who are not elected officials, because I wish that most of our elected officials in the opposition would have been energetic as people like yourself and a few others. It's sad that most of our opposition politicians are either afraid to speak out or just don't know how to do the job. Most of them.
Yes, Marcus, you know, it's not like we don't work when we are out of Guyana. You are working right now. When I go back, I work. I sometimes joke that I work harder at my political activism than the work that pays me, you know?
Absolutely. Hard worker.
That kind of stuff.
Hard working indeed, Chief Dr. David Hinds. And then there are some who feel that we are lazy bunch of people, that they're a bunch of clowns. Anyways, Dr. Hinds, you did mention that we can get jobs, and it's evident for the 20-something years of being on the ground and being there on the battlefield, as I oftentimes describe my time there in Guyana. The PPP wasn't interested in giving us work. They blocked us economically at every level. But you know what is also painful? That even sometimes our own people don't want to see us work either.
Yeah, well,
That's another
you-
story. We'll talk about that privately.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I let that out publicly. All right. Yeah, right. But Dr. Hinds, before we go though, there seemed to be on this mission, the PPP that is, to spread this propaganda that the coalition government did absolutely nothing for its support base, mainly folks of African descent. They're saying that the coalition did nothing for persons of African descent. Well, they're saying it raw. The coalition did nothing for Black people, nothing for Black people. Your take on that, Chief Dr. Hinds?
Well, you know, it's much more complex than that. I don't want to say to people who say that you're absolutely wrong, because they're not absolutely wrong. But we have to understand what that statement means when you say you haven't done anything for Black people. Those Black people know that things were done for them. They know. They know. Black people, that's when they make that statement, they know it doesn't mean that the government did nothing for them. I think what they're trying to do is to point us to the reality that the other government has come in, and it is very brazen and barefaced about discriminating against its own people. And I think it's their way of pointing to us that when you all come back to power, you all have to do something about this kind of colorblind governance. You all have to find a way to balance governing for everybody, but ensuring that your people who voted for you, are given a level playing field. I think I know African people. If I know any people in the world, it's African Guyanese. And so when they make that statement, the PPP is misunderstanding what they mean. What they mean, they know that none of their sons was shot down in the street during the coalition. There were no Quinlan Bacchuses. There were no Oren Bostons and Peter Hedges. People know that. They know that the previous governments saved Black lives. I don't have to tell them that. They know that. They know that there were policies that were not necessarily aimed at Black, but that Black people benefited from. They know that. But they're trying to tell us something profound, because people measure their conditions in ethnically divided societies and looking across at their neighbor. And when they look across and they see how the government over there is treating their people, they are telling us in a raw way, you all better look and see what's happening. And the next time we endow you all with power, you all better change the methodology. They of course don't expect us to discriminate like the, but they're saying there must be a way to govern for all, but look out for your own. After all, we live in an ethnically divided society. When the PPP goes, and I hope it's in a short while, they will leave an uneven, an ethnically uneven playing field. They will leave an uneven landscape. And what those people are telling us when they say, oh, you didn't do anything, but when you all come back, do not make the mistake that you all made the last time in not trying to level the playing field. That is the profundity of that statement, in my humble view.
Yep, sorry about that. Dr. David Hinds, in his humble view indeed, as we prepare to wrap up tonight's program of Straight Up at 10 minutes after 10 o'clock, beautiful Georgetown, Guyana, via 107.1 FM. How would you rate the opposition now as it pertains to keeping the installed PPP regime accountable?
Well, you know, the opposition got off to a slow start. But, you know, the race is not for the swiftest, but those who endure it to the end. And I think it's an opposition that has begun to listen to its own people. They were hearing them before, but they weren't listening to them. And I think the opposition has now begun to listen. And they answered a small call on Tuesday night to say, let us come out into the open, under God's sky, and standing on a ground and grounds that were watered with the blood of our ancestors, linking our hands and hearts and our emotions together. And let us stand there as erect people. And let us shout to the mountaintop for the world to hear. Let them hear that we are not begging, we are not complaining, and we are talking not just to the government, but we are talking to our leaders. We brought them here to parade ground for us to commune in the sight and the feeling of our ancestors. And from now on, the people have said, we are directing the opposition, and the opposition politicians are not directing us. I think that is the shift we saw there the night. I was there and I felt the audience. As I said, my speech was not predetermined. My speech was not intended to say how sorry we are for ourselves. My speech was intended to stand with our people and to use whatever little more sound my voice has to make them more conscious and to make them more determined. To let them know that there is nothing in this world can stop them and will stop them and should stop them. But when they're angry, they must let their anger come out for all to see. And they must not stop there. They must use their anger to create pathways to justice and freedom. I didn't go there to talk about peaceful protests. I didn't go there to talk about reform. I went there to stand with my people, take the words from their mouth, the words that they want, the dignity that they're asking for, the freedom that they're asking for, to take those words from the mouth and to make it real and to give it back to them as political nourishment. So tomorrow we can wake up and say, let's continue from where we left off last night. If the rest of the opposition doesn't hear that, they will be in serious trouble again. I heard Guyana Times said Burnham made a speech in 1962 at the same spot. And the next week, people burned down Georgetown. So they're trying to play their games. They're saying that I was trying to copy from Burnham and trying to prepare people to burn down Georgetown. You know? So listen, I said to them, I am glad that you all noticed that I wasn't playing sport. I ain't telling nobody to go and burn down Georgetown. That's not my interest. Georgetown belongs to us. And we're not going to burn down our city. But we're saying to you that they're not cowards. They're not cowards. And there comes a time when political leaders have to stop playing games, have to stop beating around the bush and say the first order of business is get off the back of my people. Get off the backs of my people. To get off our back, then we can talk about elections, we can talk about this, we can talk about it. Right now, you're sitting on the backs of my people. And I, David Hinds, who come from the wombs of those people, I'm not going to stand by and allow you to do that. I don't care what you say. I know who I am. I know that my faculties are not compromised. I know the language that my people speak. I know the cadence. I know their connection with certain kinds of exhortations. I'm speaking to them. And if you are standing and it drives some fear in you, get the hell off the backs of my.
Dr. David Hinds, Chief Dr. David Hinds, a man who's not compromised in terms of his principle. He doesn't take money to do PR, to speak, nor to write or whatever. He doesn't do that at all. And we may know some people who do that and pretending that they like us and pretending that they are fighting for a better Guyana, when in fact they are just not doing that at all. So, Dr. David Hinds, thank you so much for your time as always. And we wouldn't wait, we wouldn't stand and just say, get the monkeys off the backs of our people. We're not going to tell them that. We got to either pull those monkeys off the back, pull them off, pull them off. I wish I had my bottle of water so we can take a sip on that. But oftentimes when we speak, and we do speak the truth, and we reveal, we're not spreading any propaganda or racism or whatever, but oftentimes that's what they don't like to hear, the truth. So the only thing that they can do, it's the only thing, and they're not even good at it anymore, is to say David Hinds is a racist, Ben Cham is a racist. They're spreading, they're spreading division, all manner of things they say, but they're not good at that any longer. Dr. David Hinds, Chief Dr. David Hinds. I want to thank you for your time, sir. And salute for your contributions or what you do. Not all times we agree on everything, but one of the things that I do like is that even the few times that we disagree, we still get along with each other. Thank you so much for believing in that.
Thank you, my brother. And you were wondering at the beginning of the program, my middle names.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I was born at a time when people gave their children these biblical names. Mark.
No, stop it. Stop it.
David Samuel Augustus.
Oh, I thought you said Mark. Okay. Samuel Augustus.
No, David Samuel Augustus. Very steep.
Oh, Samuel Hinds. No, not you, a different Samuel.
A different Samuel.
You're not the Samuel that drink your sinai and all, man, and like to eat.
No, I love Sam. I have to confess. I love Sam. We have a whole Quaker song we sing in the village. Samuel. That is the Samuel I come from.
And the Samuel that we know.
No, well, Sam is a good guy. And you and Sam are friends, Mark.
No, here, Sam and I will call Samuel Hinds. I will call him. The other day I messaged him. I said, you guys busy in Washington? Yes, comrade, we are busy. But I'm laughing at this other end. But here's where I disagree with Mr. Samuel Hinds. He has basically done nothing for his support group. He has represented the people of Linden, of Region 10, and he has done nothing for them. Look, what he has done also, which was shameful, in 2006, Samuel Hinds sat there on a stolen seat. They stole that seat from the AFC man. Oh, yeah. Samuel Hinds, man. Hinds.
Yeah. But you remember when we went in front of his office protesting a few years ago, he was the one minister that came out of his office and actually stood up outside and chatted with us.
But he was also the one minister who said that let the people clear the bridge. Let them clear the bridge. Some missionaries have to pass. Yeah. I would never forget Sam Hinds for that. We do get along, yes. I've known Sam since 1990 or so when he was running around beer with the sandals at the bauxite industry. And if you know Sam's history is he walked from Maikoni. The people of Linden rescued Sam Hinds from Maikoni when he walked from Maikoni and went to the bauxite industry looking for work with 2 left side sandals. The people rescued him, Dr. Hinds, but yet he has done nothing for the people of Region 10. So if you want to talk about someone who has done nothing for the people, Samuel Hinds. Samuel Hinds is the man for that. But I give him credit. No matter what I say about him, I will call him right now. He will pick up the phone. He will answer. Hello? Right? Dr. Hinds, I know I've said finally, man. Can you describe this dance for us? The people in Buxton and Liverpool and Lancaster and Manchester and so forth, they must be laughing. But I want you to get an opportunity. This is not anta-banta or anything. This is worse than that. Describe this dance for us.
There's a relationship between the mind and the body.
No, one second, please. Let's this. I have visited the psychiatric wards of New Amsterdam to assist and to see what the people were like there. And the people at the psychiatric ward behave different than this guy. But please, I'll give you an opportunity to describe what the heck this guy was doing.
No. Irfan and
1 second.
Yeah.
I never take you for anybody else. Say brown singer, just like pearl, the best thing in the world. I never take you for anybody else. Say brown singer, your skin just like pearl, the best thing in the world. I never trade you for anybody else. Say brown.
Look the anta-banta now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together once again. Make some noise. You ready? You ready?
Look story here now.
Your skin just like pearls, the best thing in the world. I never trade you for anybody else. Say brown skin girl. Your skin just like pearls, the best thing in the world. I never trade you for anybody else. Brown skin girl. Your skin just like pearls, the best thing in the world. I never trade you for anybody else.
Look the spirit dance. Look the spirit dance.
Best thing in the world.
He got a national award there. But Dr. Hinds, what was that about, please?
Well, there are two interpretations there. Some people may think that our people were honoring him. They were laughing at him. Black people have a way of setting you up and laughing. You know that, Mark. And I think our audience knows that. They were making him a fool, and he was making himself a fool. Look, let me tell you all the story before I go. They used to allow the enslaved people to go at the back of the plantation on Saturday afternoon to drink the little bush rum, and they would catch wild meat and catch wild animal and cook. And so they were cooking guana. One Saturday afternoon, Massa passed by and he said, "The smooth food smell nice." And the white people them days won't eat things like guana and so on. They give you the guana for eat and eat. He say, "Oh God," I say, "Yeah, we'll sing him out." And them a laugh they make a song right there. Bakra Johnny Nyam Guana, met him, and if you see how he dance. And they're making fun of him. They made a white man eat bush food. They make a white man. And that's what they're doing there with their finale. I think sometimes we don't understand the complexities of our own thing. We believe they're honoring him, they're laughing him, and they've given us a lasting video that we can use to torment him for the rest of his life.
Make I feel bad when I listen to Brown Skin Girl now, man. When I walk, I look at Brown Skin Girl differently now because I'm expecting them to do some kind of shit.
Yeah.
Dr. David Hinds, thank you.
They've given us yet another thing to torment him with.
Thank you. He torments himself anyway. Really cool, indeed. Dr. Hinds, thank you so much. Give my regards to all in the village. Give my regards to Kadaki as well. And you guys continue to struggle. God bless you.
Thank you very much. And thanks to Brother Leland, who I saw here tonight, and Brother Lincoln were instrumental in my visit to Belgium on Emancipation Day. And I just want to thank them and thank the people of Belgium for welcoming me into their village.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful, brother Leland Saul. He's probably jealous of you right now. You're the chief of Guyana. You're the chief of Guyana. Good night to brother Leland Saul.
When you see Leland in Belgium, you will know that he's the chief of Belgium.
Yeah, no, he thinks he's the chief until we step in. Good night to brother Leland and all the folks at Belgium, and to all our lovely listeners. Good evening to all of you. Have a great weekend. Be safe, and remember, COVID is still real out there, despite the fact that those folks in the installed PPP regime doesn't want to think anything about COVID. They don't tell you nothing about COVID. They pretend as though it doesn't exist. God bless you all, and God bless that beautiful country. I'll see you back on Monday. Well, on Monday, Sharma Solomon will be here with the Sharma Solomon Show for Monday. But I will be back on Tuesday of next week. What can we do? Let me leave you guys with something, a real dance, not Kunu Munu dance, not that Kunu Munu who attempted to dance and insult and mock persons of African descent on Emancipation Day. Real dance. It's Friday, right? God bless you all. And thanks to David Hinds for being our guest this evening. So long.
Just get paid. I want to play. The vibes is right. I wanna hug up tight. No time to waste. I wanna work my ways. So come on, babes. Give me a taste. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you, so call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Let me rub my body on your I'm in the mood, I'm feeling new, I'm feeling hot. I want to work, the feeling exciting. So darling, let's do something. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I just can't think, I want to play. The vibes is right, I wanna hug on tight. No time to waste, I wanna work my ways. So come on, babes, give me a taste. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body